This is A.E. Chandler behind the scenes with the Glenbow Museum's military collection. Today we're going to be talking about the kinds of damage that armor undergoes, and this guy, of course, is rusted. So you can see on the gauntlet here that it is pretty bad. These objects were actually involved in a flood a number of years ago, and this is what happens. Water is one of the 2 or 3 worst things that can possibly happen to an artifact. So they're stored up here, away from the other armor. They're on special paper so that all of the rust that falls off gets collected on the paper. It doesn't go on any of the other surfaces that other artifacts have to go on. And when I touch them, I use this pair of gloves instead of the gloves that I use for other artifacts, because you don't want to transfer any of the rust to any other pieces. Another common kind of damage that you see is pitting, and that's these little black pits. This is what happens when the rust is cleaned off and it's no longer active. But when you clean off the rust, then you have these little black dark spots. So that's what we see on a lot of the armor. It's pretty rare that you don't have armor with at least some pitting on it, or a sword without some pitting on it. When you're working with weapons, there's probably going to be some wood involved. If it's a pole arm, the staff is going to be made of wood, or on a sword, sometimes underneath the grip there's some wood. And then you might have some of this stuff happening. There's just some tiny little holes. You can see something's been burrowing around in there at some point during the history of this object. And then you have to keep an eye on those, see if there's any sawdust coming out, in which case the insects are still in there, they're still active, and you need to call your insect control person. Or if there's nothing coming out, then you're probably good to go. If you find artifacts underwater that are not made of metal, then they might have concretions on them, like this amphora. This is from the Mediterranean, 1st century BC or 1st century AD. And yeah, these are just sea creatures that have hardened into rock on the amphora. It was probably originally used for wine, and now you can see there's fossilized worms in there. The other major conservation concern for armor, besides water and maybe fire, is oils from human fingers. And sometimes you get entire handprints. This is a left thumbprint, and that's just on there. That's going to rust. You're going to get a perfect fingerprint rusted into this guy with all the whorls and ridges. Something fairly common that you see on armor are these light scratching marks, and those are just from when the armor was in use and being polished. Sometimes you see armor that's slightly discolored, so it has polish residue on it. You'll also see areas of the armor that have increased wear just from the plates rubbing against each other. You also get some of this discoloration on the leather. Sometimes it's green, sometimes it's white, depending on what it's been rubbing up against, what chemical reactions have been happening. And sometimes you have these patches that are riveted to the inside of a piece of armor to cover up a crack, or maybe a dent that's so severe that it's gone all the way through. Those are some of the conservation concerns when it comes to arms and armor, and why the work that conservationists do is so important. If you're interested in more original history, you can check out the other videos on this channel, or my historical novel, The Scarlet Forest, A Tale of Robin Hood. It's available at Chapters, Amazon, and all over.